So Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have announced their engagement, which is no surprise. This was the next logical step for her if she wanted to maintain her fan base. Is her whole brand aspirational but not out of reach. And the thing her fan base considers the most aspirational in the world is getting married. Taylor Swift, as she was born in 1989, will be 36 in December. This is the last year of her career she could exist without being engaged or married. The older women among her fans have been married, some of them 2 or 3 times. She has ridden the wave of high school nostalgia as long as she possibly can, and she extended that deadline by keeping her style youthful, making sure she dressed in a very high school way, not evolving her aesthetic or her song lyrics. But the truth is, the time for that phase of her career is over. It always had a shelf life, and now it's time for phase 2. The way she can extend the relevancy of her catalog and songs like Love Story forever is to live it out. The way that all this high school marching band nostalgia doesn't become ironic, dated, and sad and make her audience turn on her in anger is for her to live it out by marrying the guy on the football team. And that's why she chose the caption for her own engagement. Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married, wanting to extend this idea, wanting to inculcate in her fan base, reify that idea. I'm just like you. Your dreams are my dreams. We do the same things, because that's how she gets them, by appearing to be relatable. When in reality, this whole thing is highly curated. Travis Kelce's father, the engagement took place 2 weeks ago. And that's fine. I don't think celebrities owe their fans a peek into their private lives. But the timeline in this case just indicates you were staging this entire thing, wanting it to look just right, just relatable enough, just achievable enough. That's her brand. Aspirational but not out of reach. And that's why you have these engagement pictures in a garden. It's beautiful, but anybody can access a garden, and you're just standing there in a sundress. By the way, the Ralph Lauren dress she wore in the photo has now sold out. Why? Because it only cost $320. This was purposeful. She dresses accessibly and whatnot. In this moment, she knows it's going to be photographed and shared to death, because she wants to tell her fans, I'm just like you. I'm just a girl in a sundress getting engaged to a boy who plays football. But the other reason she wore a major American brand in this photo is because she's signaling she's open for business. This was a business move. There were 3 motivations here. One was to maintain fan base and extend her fame. Another was business/marketing, and the third was political. Let's begin with the fan base. Here's a sampling of articles from the last day. Taylor Swift engagement nails have me rethinking my bridal manicure. I'm a millennial Swiftie, and I'm gonna say it. Taylor and Travis's engagement felt like a milestone to me. I'm a Gen Xer who immediately started crying when I read the Taylor engagement news. A million more just like that. And that's just the people who get to write in actual format, who get to write for magazines and online outlets. That's not counting social media. Here is why Taylor Swift had to get engaged to remain relevant to her fans. Women have been socialized differently, and for all their girl boss, pink pussy hat feminism, they would look down on her if she did not get married. The type of woman who will look down on you if you don't have a man, if you never have children. Her fans were willing to give her leeway up to a certain point. They defended the idea of her dating around. Why? Because it's still male-centered. You're still dating. The songs you sing are still love songs. But that grace was always going to be temporary. I've seen it as an indictment of their own life choices if Taylor never got married and she never had children. They would view her as a traitor, and there would be no coming back from that. They do not care if she's a billionaire. They don't care that she's a 1%er. She can have a house in every country in the world. That will not separate her from them. To them, she's still just a girl. But if she chose to be single for the rest of her life, if she chose to be child-free, that would be a blow which her brand would never, ever recover from. Her fan base likes to consume media that validates their choices. These are the kind of women that have made Hallmark movies so famous. They want to believe that inside every big city career woman, there's a small town country girl who's just dying to get out, who wants nothing more than to get married and live in Christmas town season all year long. They lean heavily into choice feminism to justify their choices. And if you don't reify that, or you actually go against it with either your words or your actions, you will pay. This is exactly what happened to Chappell Roan. I mean, she was climbing to astronomical heights of fame seemingly overnight. And then just a little while ago, she gave that interview where she was talking about her friends who are her age who now have children. They're miserable. Their lives are over. She can't imagine why anybody would choose that. And I don't think I've heard her name since, because she said the quiet part out loud. A lot of people don't care how much money celebrities have. The thing that really separates any woman in the 1% from all other women on earth is freedom from dependence on a man. That ability to be actually independent, whether or not they choose to take advantage of it. All of the accoutrements don't matter as much as the fact that these women will never be dependent on a man. And if Taylor Swift never married, it's a reminder to her fans she doesn't need a man for money or validation, and most of them do. Judgment, under patriarchy, most women are going to have some dependency on men. Even if it's not romantic, they might rely on a father or a family member, a male boss, if they work for themselves, a male client base. At some point, you're going to have a run-in where sexism is leveraged against you. Taylor, being a billionaire pop star, is insulated from a lot of this. Men constantly launch sexist attacks at her, but she's insulated from the impact. Even when Trump was saying whatever hateful things to her during last year when she supported Kamala for president instead of him, her fame, wealth, and of course white privilege helped to shield her from the impact that would have otherwise had on her. We'll get more into that when we get into the political side, though. For now, I'll say her fan base defended her rabidly from Donald Trump. They stood 10 toes down on the idea it was great for her to put career first and date around and explore herself and do what she wanted to do. They said back then there was nothing wrong with her being a single lady, and they will always defend the idea of her being single as long as there was a man attacking it. Swift knew which side her bread was buttered on. She knew every day that she didn't, show some long-standing relationship, a propensity to love, marriage, and children. She was playing with fire. Fans only excuse and defend the idea of temporary independence. Oh yeah, what were they saying? She just hasn't found the right man yet. Oh, she's not going to settle for just anyone. She's been focused on her career for now. But they're not going to support the kind of woman who focuses on it forever. And honestly, the kind of work she's been doing up to this point was going to expire anyway. We were both born in 89. We're creeping on 40. How long can you sing about high school life? The reason successful stars with longevity like Beyonce have been able to maintain their relevance is because they transition from life stage to life stage. When they were child stars, they sang childish songs. When they grew up and became women, they sang about their new concerns. Another year or two where she was, and her fan base was going to begin to feel mocked. People are getting engaged by the dozens to Love Story at her concerts. While she remained free and independent, it wouldn't have been long before they turned on her. Plus, she had hit the ceiling when it came to what she could do marketing herself as a single woman. This engagement has reignited her relevancy and provided her with a whole new range of opportunities. Was just as she intended. The post heard round the world. According to Billboard, their engagement announcement broke the Instagram record for views within 6 hours of being up. According to Fox Business, Meta concurred and said the Instagram record was shattered with over 1 million reposts and 14 million views within just that small time frame. And last I saw, it had something like 33 million. But notice how this is in the business section of the news, because all of this is about business. It's about marketing. NPR says brands are loving Taylor Swift's engagement. Do they need to calm down? No, because this was an advertisement. She is saying with this post, we are now open for business. We are open for collaborations. We are open for marketing. And that's why so many of the articles that are out are about the ring, where to get the ring, who made the ring, the type of ring. This is about pushing consumerism. This article from the New York Times reads, Taylor Swift's engagement ring marks a return to vintage elegance. First of all, this ring is ugly. Fight me. But it does serve a distinct purpose. It is about appealing to the base by being aspirational but still attainable, because while this ring is very large, this weird style actually covers up the size of the ring. So Taylor Swift's ring is at least 8 carats according to the papers. Here's an 8-carat pear-shaped diamond. That's just a plain stone. Look how large that looks. Here's another pear-shaped diamond. The point is, when you have a plain stone, the size shows through. Taylor's ring is very large, but the style of it covers up the size of the ring to make it look less aspirational, less out of reach. Because girls who can't imitate the size can still imitate the style. Somebody said this is like the rings we were buying from Forever 21, and I want you to know that hell is hot, but that was funny. And just for a point of comparison, here are rings that are smaller than Taylor's ring but look bigger. This is a 7-carat marquise diamond. Here's another marquise. This ring is like 5 carats. It's much smaller than hers, but it looks so much bigger. This one is also 6 carats, so smaller, but look how large the stone looks because it's just a stone. Now, it's a little blurry because I got a screenshot from a video. And you can tell from the rings that I picked, I'm obviously a classic, more timeless girly. Like, I'm always going to be prejudiced in favor of that aesthetic. But her ring is also a departure from what women in Hollywood do in general in terms of rings. Women tend to go single large stone, as we see here with Hailey Bieber, Paris Hilton. This is 20 carats. Or if they do multiple stones, they'll do a stacked ring like Sierra's. This is 16 carats. Sophia Richie, large single stone. Beyonce, very large single stone. Amal Clooney, large single stone. And if you want a more unique designed ring, look at Jackie Kennedy's. You've got the emerald, you've got the diamond, they're large stones, but it's an interesting sort of flavor with your feathered diamond band. But it accentuates the size of all the stones. It's meant to set you apart. It's meant to show off wealth. This ring apparently cost over $500,000 and is more expensive than many of the rings I just shown, but it doesn't look it. Back to the tagline of the New York Times piece, this channels an heirloom look reflecting a return to antique stones. Let me tell you what that really means. A lot was made of the fact that this is what's called an old mine diamond. A lot of words like vintage were thrown around to cover up what that really means. So this type of ring design dates back to the 18th century or, the 1700s. They are pushing this aesthetic so hard right now. And it's not because it's cute, because it's not. But think about how many period pieces they're doing right now that date to the 18th century or the 19th century. They are trying to glamorize earlier eras so badly. And you see it everywhere, including song lyrics by women. Oh, I would give up a few rights if you would love me like it's 1865. Are you well mentally? Everything is a nod to the so-called good old days. Which is crazy because even white women back in the 1700s and 1800s didn't have any rights. So I have no idea why they're so intent on glorifying this. So insidious. They have a whole generation of women walking around in those milkmaid dresses, and now they're going to be wearing jewelry from the 1700s. To the business aspect, she went unique in part to show her power. As this article headline tells us, her engagement is a big enough deal to move stocks. And it talks about the effect on the stock market. Obviously, social media stocks were impacted because of her impact on social media, breaking that record on IG and with the impact of Meta, etc. And there was also a drive in several other areas, including prediction betting. She has to move into a different area because the other areas have been saturated. And she wants to show the new area she wants to partner with that I can do whatever for your brand. I can bring in a new fan and client base for you. And that brings us to the third and final motivation for this engagement, which is political. Fascism is on the rise. If you can't tell that, you're not paying attention. And Swift has honestly always struck me as a political opportunist. She endorsed Kamala, but it was late in the game, and it looked like an easy win at the time. The move did incur Trump's wrath, and as I said earlier, she's been insulated from much of that. But it's important to remember he's never let up. Like, he has hated her ever since she announced for Kamala, and this man never forgets an enemy. Back in May of this year, as Time magazine says, without any clear prompt, he posted, "Has anyone noticed since I said, I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?" He said he hated her right after she announced for Kamala. That was last year. A couple of weeks ago, after the whole American Eagle jeans ad, Trump says, "Oh, Sweeney, she's the hottest. She's a registered Republican, and American Eagle has the hottest ad out there." And then he says other people are falling off because they're going woke, and he said about Swift. "Just look at woke singer Taylor Swift. Ever since I alerted the world as to what she was by saying on Truth I can't stand her, she was booed at the Super Bowl and became no longer hot. The tide is seriously turned. Being woke is for losers." I said this because the American Eagle ad controversy just happened. Say 2 days ago, "Oh my God, I wish Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce so much luck on their engagement. He's a terrific player and a great guy, and I think she's a terrific girl. She's so beautiful." That's an incredibly quick turnaround of sentiment. Except it's not, because Taylor Swift is doing what she's supposed to do now. She is doing what she has been withholding this whole time. She's performing marriage, and I bet you my pinky fingers she will be performing motherhood within the next year and a half, 2 years tops. It's time for the next phase of her career, celebrity wife and mother. This is the only way for her to maintain relevance and to be politically at peace with the powers that be. Look at the government and Columbia University versus Harvard. Columbia, in my opinion, has made a huge tactical error. They've stood down, they have now kowtowed, and they think that they're going to be safe. While Harvard is standing up, they're fighting back, and they are facing a lot of backlash. They've lost funding, Trump's trying to make all these crazy rules for them. But in the end, they're going to come out on top because Columbia has paid financially and will pay in prestige and in reputation for what they've done. And all the companies and the people that were trying to concur in advance, like Target, are now paying. I think Taylor thought, oh, this dovetails nicely with my goals. I already had to rebrand as a wife and mother anyway, so under this Smotty Light regime, I can also get a few cool points from the acting leader. And this isn't an uncommon thought train. Women who have never talked about motherhood or anything like that before are now starting to brand that way. Look at Lindsay Lohan's new ad for Verizon. "Now that I'm a mother," people were like, "Girl, what? You have a child?" Not to mention she's been doing those Hallmark light movies, and now she's in Freakier Friday, also playing a wife and a mother. But it's honestly no big shock. All these women, they might talk a good game, like I said, the pink pussy hat feminism, but at the end of the day, they're going to do a Sabrina Carpenter and show the regime what it wants to see so they can continue to be unmolested, so they can continue to live their lives, have their careers, be able to travel freely without the pushback. Because political currency in this moment is going to be just as important as money. Like I said, look at the reception of Columbia versus Harvard from the government. But Columbia has been short-sighted. And I think a lot of these women who are rushing to placate the powers that be are short-sighted. As I said, in Taylor's case, she was going to do this anyway for her brand, so maybe it'll work out for her. But the world is watching, history is watching, and people who have folded like a cheap fan are not going to be remembered kindly. If you want long-term relevancy, you have to think for those results, and you have to do what's right. Righteousness is still right. But of course, that's why I said her support of Kamala was motivated by political expediency, and she thought it was an easy win. Because what would have been harder, but would have secured her a place in the annals of history, was standing up after this guy got in office. But it's been dead quiet. That's not politically expedient. It's not going to serve her brand at the moment. What do people say in wrestling? This is the submission signal. They're tapping out. They're willing to show, hey, I'm going to take my place under your regime. I'm going to do what is politically expedient. I'm going to play my position. People think it's the safe option, but ask Starbucks, ask Target how safe it is. Even if people are going off of pure risk versus reward at this moment, I would think they would know enough to look around and see there's certainly a big risk in trying to be everybody's friend, trying to placate, trying to be palatable, trying to be easygoing. Let me know in the comment what you think the final result is going to be. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Doctor's orders.